everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the first half of August and the full moon that we have coming up in Aquarius on the 3rd. Now, a lot to say in this video. The energy, certainly the energy for the next 5 months is going to be very strong and very dynamic. It's quite complex energy as well, because if you think of the emphasis we have in retrograde planets, we have Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, all these outer, very slow-moving planets, so they're more dominant when they're retrograde. Eris, dwarf planet of discord and chaos, also went retrograde on the 19th of July, and Uranus will move retrograde on the 15th of August, which I'll talk more about in a moment. So usually a retrogradation is where we have a sense of introspection, and I mean that's certainly been the case with the global lockdown and having to be constrained and turning inwards into our own circumstances. But equally, retrograde planets are closer to the Earth, so their symbolism is often felt more strongly. In addition to that, as I mentioned in the last video, Mars has moved into Aries until January 2021, its own warrior sign of Aries, and it will be repeatedly through these next 5 months squaring the January and the current positions of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn. It will also be coming to conjunct Eris in Aries, so that whole combination, and I'll get into the detail as we move through the months, but that whole combination is potentially going to lead us to quite a lot of social and civil unrest in the world. But that is part of the whole Pluto in Capricorn deconstruction of the old order. Now, before we get to the detail of the full moon, there are many different threads to this deconstruction of the old system and ultimately the birth of the new. We're just sort of entering the birth canal now, if you like, over the next 5 months. And I've used this analogy before, but it is like putting in a new kitchen in your house. You have to smash out the old one before you put in the new. And so there's mess, there's rubble, there's dust, and at times you may think, this is looking really terrible and is quite hard to live with. But ultimately, once you put in your new kitchen, you'll feel very differently about it. And that's a very kind of mundane example, but I think we're in that kind of smashing out the kitchen phase where everything is turbulent, it is loud, it's going to be quite speeded up as well as we move through these few months with Mars in Aries. But there are also many, many threads to this new paradigm, this shift in consciousness that we're experiencing right now. And I just want to outline some of them. Some of them I've referred to before, but I want to kind of put them all together because there are a lot of threads to this. Firstly, remember that Eris is the female awakener. More and more people are waking up on a weekly, daily basis. They're realizing that they are more than just their 3D bodies. There's more to reality than just tangible reality. They may be waking up to other things that they thought were operating well in society, and that's a form of waking up too. Another part of this waking up is corruption coming to the fore in a bigger way. Jupiter conjunct Pluto, Jupiter truth and justice, Pluto long-held secrets, often of the rich, the powerful, often financial secrets, sexual secrets, that kind of thing. There's more disclosure coming out. And that's part of this breakdown of the old as well. We also have a sense, I think many of us moving through these weeks and months, of what's true and what's not. Because we have transiting Neptune square the transiting nodal axis, that is going to get tighter as we move through this year. And remember, the South Node is in Sagittarius, our old beliefs. So as we run into these disclosures, these kind of head-spinning shocks to our consciousness where we think what's true and what's not, that is all going to add to the collapse of the old order. What we trusted, what we've known as structural and foundational in our lives, really, really starting to crumble. All of these things are part of the challenge. Energetically, a great deal is happening. I've talked several times about this drop in the magnetic shield of the Earth that we've had all of our lifetimes because our whole solar system is spinning out of it. What that means is that we have much more cosmic and galactic energy coming onto the Earth plane. We've never had that in our lifetimes. That's helping all of our physicality upgrade. I mean, at the moment, the Earth is moving through the photon belt. Photon means light. We are gravitationally organised bodies of light. That's all we are. So with more light coming in, and light carries information, that's part of the upgrade of our DNA, moving from carbon to crystalline. We also have many people reporting huge peaks in the Schumann resonance, which has historically always been at 7.83 hertz. It's been very steady. Now seeing these huge peaks. And that is really the heartbeat of the Earth, and our own individual electromagnetic auras have to link in with that heartbeat of the Earth. So whether it is our shift in consciousness that's causing those changes in the Schumann resonance, or whether it's the drop in the magnetic shield, or whatever, this becomes a feedback loop. It doesn't really matter. It becomes a feedback loop that is just feeding into these big shifts in consciousness. Also, the comet Neowise, which many people have asked me about, that has a 6,800-year orbit, and it will be closest to the Earth July 22nd and 23rd. Now, the name, I'm not quite sure who named it, but Neowise means new wisdom. And perhaps that's what it's bringing to us, because typically comets are believed to help in the transition of consciousness. Remember the symbolism of Chariklo, which I've talked about. Her symbolism is very much about transition of consciousness. And I want to credit Stephanie Austin, the astrologer, with this information, but she, because of this 6,800-year orbit that this comet has, she talks about how it last passed close to the Earth in 4747 BC, and that was at the time of the collapse of the goddess cultures and the rise of the patriarchy. We're seeing the collapse of the patriarchy right now with Pluto in Capricorn, deconstruction of the patriarchy, the old order. So is this arrival of the comet in some way, all those years ago, signalling the beginning of the patriarchy and now helping to reinforce that Pluto in Capricorn symbolism of the ending of that episode? It's very interesting to think about that. Also, comets tend to, because they come from the icy wastes of space, as they come into the Earth's atmosphere, inevitably their icy covering melts and they deposit dust and rock, minerals, proteins, organic matter, essentially. And when scientists analysed the organic matter that was left behind from the comet in 2017, Comet 67P, they found that this organic matter, it actually forms the new building blocks of life. So again, because it's new material that we haven't had here for a very, very long time, if ever, that is helping to upgrade our system too. Part of the, so much to say here, but because so many things are interlinked here, but another result really of the collapse, the lowering of the magnetic shield of the Earth. And again, I've talked about Rory Duff's work, roryduff.com. He is a real pioneer in Earth energy lines, and what he is finding is all over the Earth the energy lines are strengthening and widening. And in particular, what he calls the Emperor Dragon lines, which are so powerful, are waking up in various parts of the world. They're emerging with their energy. And that was actually prophesied in many very ancient tribal prophecies for this time on Earth. I mean, the Hopi prophecies talk about this, that when the Emperor Dragon lines emerge, this is a time of a shift in consciousness. So that is adding to the picture too. So all of these things, I mean, some of them are very Aquarian. I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Aquarius, very Uranian, but they are all whether they're energetic, whether they're the collapse of the old that we're seeing on our news every day, all of them are helping this shift. So although many of them are very uncomfortable, see it as part of the process of entering the birth canal, that we're going to get to a better place, hopefully, when we come out of the other end. I think it's important as well to say that I filmed a video a month or so ago about the new planetary archetypes. And I won't repeat everything I said there, but essentially astrologers believe that new planetary archetypes are discovered when our consciousness is ready to integrate them. And again, take a look at that. I'll put the link below, because all of them that I've looked at talk about a quantum leap in our evolution, quantum leap in our consciousness. So this is very promising for us. Even though, you know, on the 3D level, it's pretty uncomfortable, we're heading in a very different direction with our evolution. Now, we have this full moon coming up on the 3rd of August at 11:46 of Aquarius. This is happening at 8:58 AM Pacific and 4:58 PM UK time. So see where that's falling in your chart, and also look back, because on the 24th of January we had a new moon in Aquarius, 4 degrees of Aquarius. We now have the full moon, and really that's how these cycles work. So if you set a new intention at the new moon, see what manifests roughly 6 months later when we get the full moon. Now, full moons very often shine a light on secrets. Think of Jupiter-Pluto disclosure. They shine light into dark corners. Particularly this full moon, because it is in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. Uranus is about truth, so is Jupiter. It's the piercing clarity of truth. So we may see more revelations of some kind at this time. Now, it is a very Uranian full moon, not only because Uranus rules Aquarius, but because it is in a tight T-square, 10 of Taurus, with the Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon are always opposite each other at a full moon. So we've got the Sun at 11:46 of Leo, opposite the Moon at 11:46 of Aquarius, in that tight square to Uranus. And in fact, the day before, on the 2nd, the Sun is exactly square to Uranus. So think of all the meanings of Uranus. It's the planet of awakening, big time, similar to Eris in that way. It's the planet of revolution. It has a very eruptive energy, so it's linked to volcanoes and earthquakes. It can be a political earthquake, of course. It can be very much unexpected events, shocks, surprises. It is also linked, because it's in Taurus as well at the moment. There can be shocks and surprises in the economy, Taurus, or banking or currencies. That can manifest in that way. Taurus is also linked to our food supplies, our agriculture. And it's very interesting. I mean, Uranus is going to be in Taurus till 2026. If we look back to 84 years ago when Uranus last entered Taurus, that was quite a tough time for agriculture. We had the Dust Bowls in America, we had famine in China because of poor agricultural practices. It can also, however, on the other hand, lead to innovations in how we grow our food, because right back in January, this reinforces another theme of 2020, because we look back to January, we had Ceres, goddess of agriculture and harvests, in that tight conjunction of Saturn and Pluto on the 12th of January. So astrologers were saying this is likely that there are going to be some issues around food supply this year. Now, whether we look at the plague of locusts in India, Africa, South America, whether we're thinking just of the dislocations in food supply, even with Brexit perhaps, we can see how potentially Uranus and Taurus, which is highlighted at this full moon, may manifest. So just keep all of those themes in mind. Aquarius is the most futuristic sign. It's also the sign, and I've mentioned this before as well, linked to the galactic. to the maverick, the outsider, the stranger. More and more, certainly on social media, you're seeing more references to galactic beings. It's another part, actually, another thread in our awakening is many sensitive people, many people who channel, I know many of them personally, channel benevolent extraterrestrial beings who are here to help us, because this isn't just a shift in evolution for our Earth, it's a shift in evolution for the galaxy. So they are involved in this as well. And I think more and more, as we move through these years, we're going to get more evidence of those benevolent beings who are much higher frequency than us. So we need to elevate our frequency so we can start to experience them, because if we can, you know, it's interesting, the new planetary archetypes are linked to this jump in consciousness. Uranus and Aquarius are also linked to jumps, quantum jumps, because it's an energy that isn't linear, it isn't gradual, it comes in jumps. And therefore, it can lead us to a kind of super consciousness. Aquarius is very linked to the mind, the abilities of the mind, the gifts of the mind. And so as we rise in frequency, due to all of these things I'm talking about, we can develop more superconscious abilities, telepathy, that kind of thing. Also, I think there'll be many innovations that will help this shift, help to move us to states of bliss, but also help to elevate our consciousness. Technical innovations that will be very beneficial for us. So think of yourself as galactic beings here. I've said this often because if we can look out to the galaxy and where we're headed in this bigger context, this will feel very exciting for us versus the kind of constrained circumstances that we are in at the moment. I think the other important thing to say here is we're moving from the Capricorn energy and from really a long-term age of individualism, you know, really developing your individuality, but also for all of our lives, I think we've been taught that in life it's about win-lose. It's about black-white. It's about good-bad. It's about left-right in politics. There's this constant feeling of duality and polarity. But Aquarius at its best promises a unity consciousness. A unity consciousness where if we can get to that higher frequency, we can just see all of that polarity as noise that's gone on for centuries and centuries of debate. But we can start to see a global community, a global mind in the most natural, positive sense. And I talked in my last video or the one before about having a vision of an ant colony or a beehive where all the separate little creatures go off in the day and do their thing. But the overriding principle is the health of the colony or the health of the hive. Now, Dr. Bruce Lipton was talking a while back about the idea of superorganism, how in your body you have all these different cells and organs with different functions. But again, the overriding principle is the health of the body. Well, if we can see that superorganism idea globally, that's our global community where all of us are divine sparks, we have different gifts, we have different things to offer. But ultimately, we are feeding the global community because the whole is greater than the sum of the parts if we come together. Vast majority of people on this earth want peace, clean water, enough food to eat, abundance in nature, respect for all living beings, animals, trees, etc. Many other things too. So we have many common values. So if we can come together, the power is in that sense of community. And I've mentioned in the past Lynn McTaggart's book, The Intention Experiment, which is really quite brilliant because it gives so much evidence for things which you might find wafty. You know, thought, intention, energy, consciousness. You know, how is there ever any proof of that? Really recommend to you a film, if you feel that way, a film that has come out just in the last few days called The Field. And it features very prominent thought leaders like Greg Braden, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Lynn McTaggart, and many others. It's about a 2-hour film. You can just do an internet search for it. Please don't write to me because I got it by email. But you pay about $10 and you can rent it for 72 hours. Beautifully shot, but it's inspirational for the amount of evidence it gives us about intention, focus, energy, and consciousness. So this is where we're headed with this very powerful Aquarian energy. Full moon is another stepping stone towards that. We'll have another stepping stone in December. Jupiter, Saturn move into Aquarius. We will be fully into the Aquarian age in 2024 when Pluto moves into Aquarius. It isn't just next Tuesday we're going to have the age of Aquarius. It's a gradual process because it's a very long-term shift. Consciousness is the combination of the heart and the mind and what that produces in terms of frequency. So at this full moon, we have the sun in Leo, heart energy, and the moon in Aquarius, mind energy. And we have to have both of those together working coherently to produce high frequency consciousness. And just do the simple things I've recommended in many, many videos. Imagine your heart is a lung. Breathe in and out through your heart. Slows, deepens your breathing. And have gratitude at the same time. Feel grateful for blue sky, a pet, somebody you love, looking into a flower, anything. And that will raise your frequency, but also help the collective. At this full moon as well, we have this ongoing sextile, beautiful sextile between Jupiter in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces. Dream big. That's what that's about. Have bigger horizons, bigger visions of how this world can be. So the Aquarian energy, the Uranian energy continues. On the 10th of the month, we have Mercury exactly square to Uranus. Same day, Moon is conjunct Uranus. That can be shocking truth or surprising facts coming out. On the 15th of August, as I mentioned at the beginning, Uranus becomes stationary retrograde. So within a few days to either side of that, we may well feel that Uranian energy strongly. Awakening, shocks, surprises, galactic beings, earthquakes, extreme earth events, could be any or all of those. And also on the 13th of these are going to be strong, strong times in the middle of the month. On the 13th of the month, Mars exactly squares Pluto. That's very forceful, might makes right. On the 17th of the month, Mars also exactly conjuncts Eris. Those aspects are going to be repeated through several times through the rest of the year. So it's energizing the awakening principle of Eris. Now, yes, if we are reacting to outer events, our energy is going to be quite scattered. However, if we can turn that Mars in Aries energy to hero energy with a strong sense of anchor, self, center, then we have such clarity that we know what we are offering and contributing to building a global community with one heart and one mind. So think of it as internal hero energy that isn't just reacting impulsively to outer circumstances, as Mars in Aries at its lower expression can be, and just really feel inspired by what's coming up through these quite 3D level disruptive few months. And then we will feel quite a shift in energy as we get into December. Hope that's helped you. If you want to know where these places are in your chart, please check out the link above. That will take you to my store. You can get some videos that will help you understand that very easily. My books, pamgregory.com, or Amazon. Teaching videos, pamgregory.com. And also, if you want to subscribe to my monthly newsletter, you can do that on any page on my website, pamgregory.com. Thanks so much for listening. I hope it's been helpful for you. Bye for now.